Well, good afternoon, Vinod. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me. Really excited. So for those of you watching or listening in, Vinod and I worked together before he went to Cornell, which is where he now is, which is also my alma mater. So Vinod certainly close to my heart and one of my favorite people. So really excited to have him today. Vinod, thanks again. Why don't you just start by telling the viewers just a little bit more about your background and your professional experience coming in. What the school's been like for you so far.
Sure. Of course, thanks for having me, Ryan. Before business school, I'm originally from Chennai, India, where I got my bachelor's in electronics and communication engineering. I really wanted to understand how technology fit in the business world, so decided to get a master's in information systems from the University of Arkansas, Fayetteville. It was a very fun experience. And I started my career off in consulting right after graduation with Ernst & Young. Spent about 15 months in Ernst & Young and decided to transition to Deloitte because there were other opportunities that I wanted to work on that Deloitte was working on. Pre-MBA, about 4 years in consulting, working in the tech strategy space and business process redesign space, and also doing a little bit of business strategy. And I saw the impact that business strategy project created on specifically the bottom line of these companies, and got very interested in management consulting and realized that this is what I want to do. I also understood that to be successful in that space, you need some core business skills, which I've never taken. I've never taken a business class in my life. So, and I also wanted to sharpen my leadership skills. So all of that put together, the most effective way to fill that gap in my skill set was to get an MBA at a top MBA program. Mm-hmm. And decided to apply to Cornell, worked with Ryan, and finally made it here.
Yeah. Awesome. So if you don't mind sharing, what was your undergraduate GPA and what was your GMAT score? And what would you say was kind of your biggest concern? Like what was that part of your candidacy that you were afraid might actually keep you out of a top school?
So exactly those things you mentioned, right? So I was an engineer in undergrad, so my GPA was around, so I was an engineer in India, so it was around 6.53 on a scale of 10. Mm-hmm. And that translates to around roughly 3.2, 3.3 based on which, tool you use to transform your GPA, which is definitely not the strongest GPA. And my GMAT score when I applied was 710. And both of these were areas of concern for me because one, my demographic, right, I come from a very overrepresented demographic, Indian male, worked in technology. So that is not a big differentiator for me. And 710 is not the strongest GMAT score for my demographic. So both of these were areas of concern for me. And what was the second part? I'm sorry.
I mean, I think you answered it. Just what were how did you address those things or overcome those things, right? So slightly below average GMAT and GPA, and you come from a very overrepresented candidate with an engineering degree. So what is the strategy that you took in the application process to try to differentiate yourself?
So yes, those were areas of concern for me. And so there was a reason behind the low GPA, right? I unfortunately had some extenuating circumstances that I definitely put forth in my optional essay, which I recommend every applicant to do. Talk about whatever you feel are areas of concern in your application or something that's not covered in your application.
Yeah. The
second thing is the GMAT score. And so I honestly, hindsight being 2020, overthought the GMAT score. It's a data point, but not the data point in your application. So the key to overcome areas of concern is really give a compelling reason and differentiate yourself. Compelling reason for the admissions committee for them thinking that you are going to be a value add in the class and you're going to be a different applicant, someone that's going to be very different and is going to add a different perspective in class, either in driving those discussions or you're going to come on campus and start a new club or open up a new recruiting door, bring some companies online, you're very connected, all those other aspects that you really have to do some introspection and start digging into are ways that you can overcome, things that you think are areas of concern in your application or in your profile in general.
Awesome. So how did you do that? What was your argument? As you articulated really well, you have to kind of show your value prop to the school and how you'll add value. So what were some of the things that you said in your application that resonated ultimately with the admissions?
So I think of myself in three big things, right? First, I am very good in quant, right? My quant score was good, and I'm a quant jock, and I'm really good with Excel and databases, and I'm really the guy who even in today, even like we had a marketing case like 2 weeks back, and I'm the guy who built the financial model, who built the Excel spreadsheet, and so that's my thing. I am a quant guy. I'm very quant focused, and give me data, and I could solve any case you want. That was my selling point. The second thing that I said was my consulting experience, right? I was very clear on my goals. So I didn't want to move out of the consulting industry. I wanted to do a function pivot that is move from tech strategy to management consulting. However, I didn't want to go from one industry to another. So I said, hey, I understand this industry. I've been in this industry for a while. I have those contacts. And so not only can I recruit in this industry and be successful and be a successful Johnson alum down the line, but also as I could be the VP of education for consulting club during my second year. I know enough people in consulting that I can say, hey, and call up my manager, senior manager in Ernst & Young, and be like, hey, you want to come talk to the consulting club in Johnson this weekend, or call my senior manager in Deloitte and say, hey, do you want to just host an event and come join recruiting event and have a coffee chat with prospective students who want to get into consulting. And the third thing is I was very passionate about the technology industry, specifically mobile technology and wearables, right? And in Johnson, there's no specific club around wearable technology. And so we're getting a couple of students are getting together to, open that club up. And, that opens, again, recruiting options, right? People who don't know any much about wearable technology. And that's another industry that they could recruit in now. And, that knowledge dissemination. So basically, you're trying to tell the the admissions committee that, hey, this is how I'm going to impact that Johnson community. This is how what I bring to the table. It's like, yes, all the, the GMAT and your undergrad and everything put together, these are the table stakes, but this is my value add.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah. That story with you. It's such a compelling story. So yeah, it's really great. So what was the most surprising part, or put another way, what is it that you wish you had known heading into the process that you didn't know?
That's a good question. I worked with you and you were on the admissions committee, so there was very little that I didn't know. However, the way that the admissions committee thinks, right, you really don't know it until you're in your first core class, right? You look around your classmates and then you see how different these people are. Like, there are people who worked as news anchors, there are people who were in marketing, who were brand managers for the big brands, and there were people who were consultants, and so it's this whole wide perspective, people from all over the world too, right? So when we're, for example, in a marketing class, when you're talking about brand placement, people can relate, saying, hey, this is how it was in the US, and then someone from the UK is like, no, this ad campaign didn't work in the UK, so you got to think about it in a different way. So really, that's what the admissions committee is trying to build, that diverse class. So having that knowledge now, I would have really tried to, more differentiate myself from, and really talk about, hey, what do I add? What do I bring in, right? And I know we both worked on it a lot, but just, it was just me, listening to you and not understanding, and, understanding how that really impacted the class. So I wish I was in right now where I am, about, before admissions. I wish I was at that spot, sitting in that class, just looking at people around me and saying, okay, this is how you get into Cornell, right? This is what you bring to the table, right? Yeah. So this is what they're looking for. So I wish I had that insight. I did get a lot of it from you, but until you're really in that classroom, you don't really feel it.
Right, right. Awesome. So what has your Cornell experience been so far? I mean, you're about what, your first year? Anything about Cornell that's been surprising to you?
Yeah, one thing I would say, I'm loving it. There's so many smart people. I walked in thinking I'm so successful in my career. I'm just gonna rock this class and blow everyone's mind. And then you just, business school puts you in your place really quick. But just the wealth of knowledge that's there around me, not only within Johnson but Cornell as a school, like it's mind blowing. And how smart your classmates are, and just playing off of that, that's just amazing. Like grabbing a coffee with a classmate and realizing, like, I didn't even know, like, I just spoke yesterday. I hadn't met him, but I met him for the first time. He was a app engineer at Apple, and we solved a case together for a company we were recruiting for. So the perspective that he brought in, I was blown. I have an engineering background, but the way that he thought of things, it's just so interesting to understand how these people think, and like things that you wouldn't even thought of. That's the first thing. Second thing is the community, right? Johnson's such a tight-knit community. For example, when we finished our first midterm, there was like a loud noise, people celebrating, and I'm sitting there thinking, who are these first years who are celebrating for writing their first midterm? It's like not even the first step, right? It's a midterm. And then it was actually the second years throwing us a party for completing our first midterm. So as we were walking out of Stage Hall, and then they had like glitter flying everywhere, bottles of champagne outside, a full-blown party, loud music. And so for them to actually, come and motivate us, and just that tight-knit community. And I think this is the first year we're starting a cohort system, and we have a ping pong tournament between two beer pong tournament between two cohorts this weekend, right?
Nice.
So community and the tight-knit community that's there, that's super surprising for me, because it's not something you would expect from like a school that's so focused, and is such a top-ranked program. People are always serious all the time. Bankers are a little serious all the time, but that's because they're going through the recruiting cycle now. But overall, just the community is really, you really have to start thinking about how you're gonna positively impact this community, and it makes you want to give more than you think. So that's surprising. Yes, I was pleasantly surprised about that.
Yeah, that's awesome. So any other advice for candidates who are trying to demonstrate a fit for Cornell specifically? Like, what are some of the things that you think may...
So my advice is really think, like I said, think about the community aspect, right? It's a big school on community impact, and really think where you fit into that community and how you're going to make it better and how you're going to take it farther, right? They're constantly trying to improve that Cornell brand, and really find, it's not a perfect school, right? And so seriously just think about, hey, this is how I think I'll take this community forward. This is the impact that I'm going to bring in, and this is how I fit in, and this is where I see areas of improvement that I can personally, make those areas of improvement. For example, when I was applying, I was talking about consulting club and how I can be the VP of education for consulting club, right? Cornell has a strong consulting brand, but it's not known for consulting. If I would say Cornell, I would think everybody thinks, oh, bankers, right? So that's something that I said, hey, you have a strong consulting recruitment, but I feel like we can place more people in consulting, and I can really help with that, because consulting club is I feel the backbone of recruiting for consulting, and things like that. Really think about how I love blockchain, and I'm going to start a blockchain club, or I'm the AI guy, machine learning is my thing, and I'm going to start a machine learning club, because these are really trends, right? Cornell is not a big tech recruiting school as well, but and so if you start a blockchain club and really say, blockchain and fintech, this is how you should be targeting these fintech companies, and this is how you should understand. So think about all these things where you feel you could really improve that Cornell brand, and and fit in that community and see how, I think about it that way and focus more on that area, especially in your essays.
Awesome. Good. So helpful, man. Thank you so much. I think I know you're coming out to Santa Monica in a couple weeks. I think you earned a couple beers on me.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, student life is hard. I'm counting on those beers, man.
Good.
Yeah.
Drown away those consulting stresses.
Yeah. It's been a great ride so far. Really like it. Actually, yeah, it was like, I'm really glad I chose Cornell.
That's so great. So great. Well, thank you again for the time. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, you're very welcome anytime.